So my name is Mike Dickson. I've been in golf for 23 years and teaching full-time for about 13 of those. Started teaching at Congressional Country Club, and that's where I really got lucky and started to meet some really impactful mentors. Over the past couple years, got recognized as Teacher of the Year for the PGA. This year, got recognized by Golf Magazine as one of the top 100 instructors in the country. So pretty exciting. Just trying to figure out how to help people, how I can get them to play better golf faster, explain it simpler, how to make it so people can take it from the range to the course a lot easier. Best part about the LagMaster connects to the player's club, put it down on the shaft, slides up onto the bottom of the grip, which is really important so that can kind of grab on. We tighten down the knob here, and we want to try to make it where it matches the top line, not the leading edge. So it will be to a slight angle, and then it's adjustable to make it where it can be shorter or higher based on the golfer's wingspan and how long their arms are. So again, I got my setup here. Again, it's off to the side, and all I'm going to try to do is when I swing back, I'm trying to get it to touch my trail shoulder. Again, if it goes and misses, my elbow might bend, or I might go back and like keep it too short, but we're trying to get where that's touching the trail shoulder. And it's only gonna stay on for about halfway down where my arm is parallel to the ground. What I find most players do is they start trying to pull, comes off their shoulder immediately, or they start to rotate and it starts to come across and over the top. So I'm trying to keep it on the shoulder. And you see how that kind of like lets the club drop down and under the plane. And from there, I release down, and I'm always making sure that that club face is coming down and is really square. And I come up into my finish, that classic Ben Hogan finish with the club through my ears, trying to touch the shoulder. So here, here, to here. So as a teacher, I felt like training aids are really beneficial to the student because it can actually try to create a feeling in a movement pattern. I might be able to try to relay what I think it might feel like to them, but again, that's the whole idea behind a training aid. I had every training aid known to man, but there were some things that I still couldn't get players to do. So I was going through and just putting some different things together, and lo and behold, it started to work. We had an engineer that started working on trying to develop the LagMaster off the drawings that I was providing, and we got the first printed prototype right before the PGA show last year. Lag has always been a really big catchphrase in the golf swing. It's one of those things where people think they need more of it. I think you just got to understand that there's lag in a putt, there's lag in a chip, there's lag in a full swing. It doesn't have to be necessarily a particular angle. Lag is a result of proper movement sequence. So when we order how the body and the club is all moving in the right time, lag is created. So what I would find all the time is with players, two things they struggled with was number one, how they had to hold the club correctly, because the right grip doesn't usually feel very good for most players. And number two, how to sequence it. And there's a lot of confusing information out there. You hear a lot of people say swing the arms down, but when we look at the kinematic sequence on 3D, that's not how it works. The lower body is usually the first thing to engage, and then it goes into the upper body, then the arms, and then the club. And trying to convey what that feels like to someone is very difficult. And I would usually get in and start trying to move the player, and as soon as I start trying to help the player, they're not learning anything. So that's where the LagMaster started to kind of come in, connects to their own club. They're able to create the sensation, and they have the awareness of where the club is, where their arms are, where their hands are, which is kind of a difficult thing when we can't see them. Again, once the club gets up behind our head, we're hoping that it's doing what we think it's doing. Lag is going to enhance your club head speed. It's going to benefit your contact, not just with the golf ball, but where the club should strike the ground correctly. Like the things that I started seeing with the LagMaster, it started improving weight shift, the tempo started to get better, started fixing wrist condition, club positions at the top, shaft lean at the impact. There are so many benefits that were coming from it, and the only thing I was trying to do was really trying to get the person to not swing their arms down. The ideal player that the LagMaster is going to benefit is really anyone. We all have swing faults. For a beginner, it can just be trying to learn the movement pattern. I find a lot of beginner golfers don't understand how much the body actually needs to move, and they don't know where their arms are going and where the club is. So that's one thing that the LagMaster is able to do. It's going to provide feedback when we go back up to the top and get the trail shoulder to get touched by the LagMaster, then getting it to touch the other shoulder. And it's very simple, and then they start to learn the movement pattern very quickly. For a better player, we can talk about swing plane, we can work on wrist conditions, we can work on the release, we can work on impact position, extension. There's always going to be some swing flaw, even as a good player, that we know that we're going to fight. The cool part is the LagMaster is going to give you the feedback to really start to help change that movement pattern to really get rid of that fault that we're trying to fight. One of the most recent stories about LagMaster, it was actually at a Topgolf, and there was a bay next to us, and it was probably a high schooler, and he's lefty, and sitting there watching him, and he's probably making like half to three-quarter swing, not using his body very much. And in a matter of about 5 or 6 swings, it totally changed his golf swing. To the point where the people who were with him were like, wow, look how much better. Again, so like people understand what it's supposed to look like, but the hard part is when you're trying to go through and you do it, you can't see yourself. So we need that feedback to understand like where things are and when they're supposed to be moving and how much they're supposed to be moving. I get emails every day. Like I got an email last night from a guy that just got his, and he said within just a couple swings, he really started to feel how different the downswing was for him. And the cool part is when he goes to do the swing and actually hit a golf ball, I know it's going to be different. Sounds different, feels different, ball's going to be different. So those are the cool things that are really like I enjoy getting to see, is just like how it's benefiting so many different people that I never would have been able to help. This is our rock shot, goes under my trail foot. Again, kind of see right now I have my foot dead center, and it just kind of rocks back and forth. So again, so most players, when they kind of sway, this is going to lift. So I can make it really hard on somebody and put my foot on the edge, and they really have to try to work hard on trying to stay and keep this leg in, and again loading that leg. But also when I go through, I want to really help them train this lower body action of being able to shift their weight going to their front foot. So for me, I have it in the center again, like so I'm not going this way, and then I can rock in, come up into my finish. The rock shot was developed with the idea of, again, footwork. Really big now in golf is everybody talks about ground reaction force. The problem that I find a lot of times is players really have no sense of what's going on in their feet. There's a lot of other products out there that are trying to show players how to shift their weight. The problem is usually it's starting to move their head a little bit too much, but if they don't load their rear leg correctly, they can't shift their weight forward. I would always give the analogy to a player that their foot's rocking around. It's kind of like a baseball player, right? Like a pitcher, on the pitcher mound, they put their foot on the front side of the rubber so they can push off. If they put it on the back side of the rubber, they have no ground, they have nothing, no leverage. And that's what I found a lot of times with players, was they were going into their backswing and their trail foot would wobble around. So we developed a rock shot. It's cambered on the sole. So you can move your foot around to exaggerate it and really make yourself feel what's wrong. But also, because it's not restricting you, the player has to train how to stabilize their trail foot and their leg and their pelvis, like how to load into their rear leg, how they're rotating, a spine angle, but also now because they're loading better, they can shift forward better. The one thing that I find a lot of times with players is, again, they have too much lateral movement. And with lateral movement of the pelvis, the trail leg is going to straighten and the right foot and ankle can't support the leg and their balance. So once you sway to the right, you're really not going to be able to make the downswing correctly sequence-wise. The idea with the rock shot is trying to load onto the inner edge of your shoe, and so that you can push and again rock off of that foot to shift your weight going forward. It doesn't create any restriction, so if you do it incorrectly, you're going to get that feedback, but also so you can go through and really learn how to do it on your own and stabilize your trail leg and really load into this leg so we have that power going into the forward swing. The problem that a lot of players have is, number one, getting to the driving range. And when they do get to the range, they're usually in a hurry. We're gonna hit a lot of golf balls and we don't go through and we're not thinking about what we're trying to do. So the thing that's nice about the mini club is you can swing it at home, don't have to worry about hitting the ceiling. It's counterweighted, so it feels like a 7-iron, but it's only 24 inches in length. We made it so that it fits a lefty and a righty because it's a dual face, but really trying to get it where you can swing it with the LagMaster on it or you can swing without it, but trying to get where you're doing slow, methodical, and meaningful reps. Sometimes what we fall victim to is the golf ball is giving us bad feedback and we start trying to change things. And when we're going through and we're just doing reps at home, I'm not getting that negative feedback, so I can trust what my body's trying to do. It will feel different when you swing correctly instead of the arms trying to do all the work. But that's where the LagMaster and the mini club are really just like this perfect combination. So you can do it in your office, you can do it in your house, you can do it on the go. Just the simplicity of popping it on, making swings at home, not worried about the ceiling. Because again, if you're worried about the ceiling, you're gonna start really trying to compensate your swing to not hit the ceiling. It's going through eliminating those compensations, making it where we can start swinging free, but also make repetitions, 10,000 hours, 10,000 reps. There's a lot of truth to that. When we see the golf ball do something wrong, we usually start to try to correct it or change it, instead of going down the route of sticking with what we feel and doing the right way. The one thing that was really important to me when we created the mini club was we wanted it to feel like a real club, but the important part was the club face. If I'm going through and I'm training you how to move your body and how to move your arms, I need to train your hands as well. So when we're going through and we're going and creating the mini club, it had to have a club face. It had to have something that when I was swinging down into impact, I would be able to train myself to make sure that club face was square. Because I find a lot of times when people are trying to increase lag in their golf swing, they're holding the club too long and they don't release it correctly, which really brings the club face into the ball in the hitting zone wide open. Again, you're not gonna really replicate that when there's a ball down the ground. Going through in our training protocol, I always try to get people to understand that we're doing full swings, we're doing them slow, doing them in chunks, swinging down to impact where I see the club face, making sure that it is square. If it's not, I gotta probably make an adjustment to my grip. For a beginner to an advanced golfer, you have to have club face awareness. That's what's controlling the golf ball. So if I can control the grip, I can control the club face, I can control the golf ball. Really excited about this impact bag. Want to introduce you to the lag bag. There's a lot of thought and function behind this compared to just your normal round impact bag. The thing that I always found with an impact bag was people would go through and make a motion, but they would come down and hit the bag and the club face would just be wide open. We have a compression wedge here, and notice again, the bag is actually not just rectangular, it's on an angle. When I go into impact position here, and I can train somebody to get into forward shaft lean, but also train club face awareness. So when I come down into impact, my goal is to try to get that club face to match up to that compression wedge Over on this side, you can move the compression wedge on the Velcro over here for chipping, where we don't want any shaft lean. Again, that means I can't put my ball back in my stance. This side, we got a little tee and a ball, so we can hit up with the driver. So I can get up here, again, trying to make sure that I'm hitting the center of that. My favorite part, probably this lag loop though. I can hook my club into here and I can go in and I can just drag the bag with my body. So if I go in and try to drag it with my arms, notice like start to get my chicken wing. Push off that back foot, turn the hips through, coming into a really good solid impact position. See it at the show. Hopefully see you there. Booth 2184 in LagMaster Sports. Come check us out. So one of my favorite training aids has always been an impact bag. And the idea with the lag bag is, other than just trying to get the body to be hips open and the hands ahead when it strikes the bag, I wanted to have some impact alignments that are really important to every golfer when you get to the bag and when you strike the bag. So one side of the bag is angled to create shaft lean. The other side of the bag is angled to create an upward hit for a driver. What's really important is we have a compression wedge that Velcros to the side of the bag. And when the club comes into the bag, the club face has to match up to that compression wedge. Really starting to train your impact alignments and your club face alignments when you're getting into that moment of truth. There's some other things that are pretty cool that, again, like it has like a little loop that you can drag the club with and drag the bag when you start to use your lower body. All things that I would use your normal impact bag for, but actually having more benefits to the player. As a teacher, you're always trying to really improve impact positions, and that's really the goal behind the lag bag. An impact bag is probably one of the most widely suggested training aids that I tell my students to get. Again, it's really easy to use at home as long as they can make a swing with a golf club into their backswing. It's really trying to train their body how to move. I mean, you can put it in a couple different places. For position-wise, the biggest benefit the lag bag is going to do is it's trying to teach that forward shaft lean and club face impact alignments when you're going through and you're hitting it, versus just your typical impact bag is just kind of filled with towels, round. And most of the time people are coming in and their club face is wide open. Trying to make sure that we're training the body, the arms, and the hands all simultaneously to really create a consistent and powerful motion. Check out our swing plane. This is the LagMaster pop-up plane. Really simple to use. Again, there's 4 settings from driver, iron, wedge, down to putter. There's a couple kickstands here that are really simple to adjust. All you gotta do to shift the plane is undo our stability strap over here, put the kickstand into the grommet, and again, one person can do that pretty easily. Got an iron here, got it set up on the 7 iron, and just gonna do my backswing. Again, goes right up the plane, comes right back down the plane, up and around. Again, really excited about this. We're gonna have an insert that you can Velcro on to make the plane smaller so a junior can actually use it and their club would stay right on the plane as well. Very simple, pop it up on the driving range, in your garage, in your basement. Really start dialing in the golf swing. Really excited about the pop-up plane. Booth 2184 at the PGA show, LagMaster Sports. Come check us out. So the pop-up plane I'm really excited about as a teacher because, again, it conveys a message, it conveys a concept. A lot of players don't understand what the swing plane is. It's a great visual for that, but it also has the adjustability and it's very lightweight and it folds down to 36 inches. I think it's 6 pounds. Again, right now, if you were to go get something to work on your swing plane, you're either getting a huge piece of plywood or PVC pipe. Going to be very cost effective and affordable, but really simple to use. A junior could adjust the angle of the plane. Really simple to get someone to understand the concept of what the swing plane is. Adjustability is key. Cool part with all of our training aids is everything's actually applicable for lefty and righty. I find that that's kind of unique because most companies can't really say that. So the pop-up plane is really instrumental on trying to train the player where the club ideally should go. Find a lot of times, again, people struggle with coming over the top of the plane. They've heard that term, but they don't understand usually what it means. So being able to provide a visual so they can have that understanding is really important, but also trying to create this feeling of where the hands and the club should go in the golf swing is really important. And as we know, the swing plane changes as the club gets shorter to longer. Having that adjustability is really key. So the important thing when we're going through and understanding any training aid, the idea is to try to convey the feeling so that when I go into a swing without the training aid, I have that feeling to reproduce the mechanics. Mechanics create feel, feel is going to reproduce that mechanic. Let's say we're using the LagMaster. I would do 3 or 4 swings with the LagMaster, and then I would try to go into a club without it and try to replicate that. And if you can do it with video, it's even better because we can start to compare the movement patterns. I do that with anything when you're going through and you're practicing. It's not just do the drill, because we really don't want the drill to become the movement pattern. Sometimes we might be exaggerating something to try to make it work and kind of flow into the movement. One piece of advice I would recommend to any golfer is when you're trying to practice, have something thoughtful behind it. Don't just sit and hit golf balls. Less is more. Try to incorporate practice swings, trying to reproduce the mechanics or the feels that you're trying to do, the positions that you're trying to do, instead of just trying to hit the golf ball. And usually when you are trying to make a change, it's probably going to be bad in the beginning before it starts to really work and take shape. So again, LagMasterSports.com. You can go through and find our full offering from LagMaster to the Rock Shot and the pop-up plane and the lag bag. If you're a PGA professional and you're interested in becoming a brand ambassador, definitely reach out. We are looking for ambassadors and we want to try to help compensate you for your efforts in trying to help grow the brand and help your students become better golfers.